Hey tubers, tubettes, various crazy people. I'm here with you know who, Bud Brown. And we have found our little slice of paradise here. And we're going to keep the location secret because that's just the way we roll. But we found a place that we can come on a Sunday, sit outside, and just kind of shoot the breeze, chew the fat, and not have a lot of exterior noise and all that kind of stuff, and some decent lighting. So we're going to have you join in on the conversation with us. And that's that. Bud's got about 14 cameras set up. I, of course, just have my one little phone. But that's how Bud rolls.
Yeah, and that's how Paul rolls. Mr. Korina.
So, we were going to talk about, because I've done a number of videos recently about some houses that my friends have recently moved into. And Bud has recently moved also. Yeah. And 4 months ago, I moved into a house. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about the dynamics of what to look for when you are renting a place. It's not all about how many bedrooms and bathrooms.
No, not really.
So let me get your input. What are your, like, you have like 4 rules, right?
Yeah, I got 4 rules.
Okay.
There's 4 factors basically that's that you have to look out for here in the Philippines that I don't think necessarily in the States. I mean, as far as smoke or loud carry, that's not even a factor.
Right, but that's correct. You rent a house in a suburb in America, and you're on Maple Street. You pretty much know there's going to be kids riding up and down the street on their bicycles. There's going to be, there might be some teenagers living down the street that look like trouble, but you know, it's pretty easy to get the whole vibe. Here, you've got 4 things which I want to get into, but I also have discovered that you almost have to live in the place for a month before you actually know what you're renting. You can do as much due diligence as humanly possible.
That's really true.
And there's something you forgot to look at, or something that wasn't going on 2 weeks ago, and now it's going on. So anyway.
Yeah, you can't really escape everything, but there are some things that you can look out for.
Okay, so what are your, if a guy comes out here, he's watching this video, and he wants to rent a house or an apartment or whatever it might be, what are the 4 things that you recommend that this guy be in tune to?
Well, you told me earlier that you did go come to scout out the place at various times of the day, which is very smart. But as you say, there's some things that happen that, excuse me.
That's all right.
1, smoke. In the Philippines, as you know, it's not uncommon. Matter of fact, it's very common. They burn stuff.
Well, you know what we found out is the first week that we were there, the trash men come on Saturdays.
Okay.
And we set our trash out.
Yeah.
And in one of our barrels, if you will, was a bunch of leaves. They wouldn't take them.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
Did you know that?
Interesting. No, I didn't know that. But you know what? Somewhat doesn't surprise me.
They told me, no, we don't take leaves or foliage or vegetation is the word I'm looking for. And they expect you to burn it. I don't know if it's because of the landfill. I don't know if it's because they don't have enough room in the truck, the dump truck. I don't know what the dynamic there is, but they refuse to take it. So what May and I did is I started a compost deal. I said, I don't want to burn it. I want to stack it. And so we're taking the leaves, we're stacking it, I'm covering it with palm trees, and then we're putting eggshells and coffee grounds and all that kind of stuff on it, and making an impromptu compost heap. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But
that's about all you can do.
That's about all you can do.
Yeah.
So smoke is, what Bud's talking about is just that. If you have a bunch of leaves and people like to sweep the street, they like to sweep their yard. May does it almost every morning just to keep it clean and neat. It's pride of ownership or pride of where you live. And then they put it in a pile and they light it on fire.
Yep.
And that smoke we're fortunate where we live because the folks across the street, they do burn their leaves as they're supposed to. Otherwise they're just gonna pile up. And we're just blessed because the wind blows away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't come directly across the street and into our house.
Plastic is not immune to their burning either.
No, that is brutal. When they put the plastic jugs in there, or the plastic bottles, bags, that is nasty.
And by the way, for the, sometimes Filipino English is a little bit different than American English. So, Gloria and others, would you give me the plastic? She's talking about the plastic bag. Hand me the plastic. I'm saying, honey, plastic. Well, I don't really. I know what she means. So, yeah. Do you have a plastic I can put these things in? You experience that?
Oh. My favorite with May is I go, where did I put my glasses? She says, over there.
Yeah, over there. Oh, yeah. Honey, you have to. You're pointing like there's 100 things over there.
All right, so we got smoke. Yeah. What else do you look
smoke,
for?
Of course. If you come by different times of the day, you would probably detect that, because that's kind of a daily thing. A lot of times in the evening too, I've noticed.
Yep.
I'm not sure what the deal. Maybe it's a mosquito thing, or I don't know what the deal is.
Some people do burn to keep the mosquitoes away. They will actually smoke their house intentionally because they've got a ton of mosquitoes in there.
Yeah. Karaoke.
Okay.
Yeah. It's hard to be around when the karaoke is there, but if you come around maybe during the evening also, smoking karaoke in the evening, then there's nothing. I know a reputation of Americans, unfortunately, or foreigners, is that we feel we need to go over there and let them know that they're bothering us.
Yeah.
But in this culture, that's just not something you do.
No.
No. And and I know. I mean, you and I are both red-blooded Americans.
Yep.
We have our what do you say? We have our rights.
Yep.
And you're bothering me, and
Yep.
And it's kind of the same thing when I've seen guys in a restaurant go tell, hey, that music's too loud, and turn it down. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, 100 Filipinos, they love it.
Yep.
You don't like it.
Yep.
So well, I don't really want to get into that, but that's that same mentality so karaoke is something they do. We put up with it if you want to live there.
Yep.
And there's a couple other things. Oh, street dogs.
Okay.
Of course, where we are now,
none.
No street dogs.
No. Because we're down in a valley right now.
Yeah.
We're far away from a road.
Yeah.
And the only dogs that would be here would be pets, and they don't have any. So,
right. Yeah. So we lived on a place before where we are now that had quite a few dogs. The neighbors, and I have mixed feelings about this. The neighbor was feeding the neighborhood street dogs. They call them Osco, by the way. It's short for Oso, which is dog, and Calle, which is street. Dog, street, Osco. But anyway, got to throw in my language lessons there.
We always appreciate that. It went in one ear and out the other. I'll never
Yeah,
use
you'll
that
be
phrase.
quizzed on that, next week.
I'm still going to call him a street dog.
Oh, man. So, on one hand, of course, when he feeds them, they expect to be fed, daily thing. But on the other hand, they gather around, and then they bark, and they have their territory, and any stray dogs that come into their territory. So that's only problem we have. We moved away from that, and the only problem we have now is that actually the neighbor's dog, not our neighbor down the road a little bit. They've got some. I think they're dash hounds or some little dog that barks. And when I kind of gently said something to them, they well, this dog's kind of bark. The response, and I've heard this several times, they're just doing their job.
Right.
They're doing their job. That's their job, is to bark.
Right. Right.
When people come around.
Right.
So I could, I thought, oh, okay. So, but I think you said earlier, when you go inside, it's a lot more quieter.
Well, yeah. We were chatting before all this.
Yeah.
And I was saying that for 2 weeks prior to moving into this house, I did my best due diligence, because everything that we're talking about here, the noise, the smoke, the karaoke, the dogs. I wanted to make sure those weren't big issues when we moved in. And so I would drive up in the afternoon, I would drive up in the morning, I would drive up in the evening, and I was totally happy because I didn't hear any karaoke.
Yeah.
There were a few dogs rolling around, but that's everywhere.
Everywhere.
I didn't see any smoke or any of that kind of stuff going on. And after living there for 30 days, I've got smoke, I've got dogs, and I've got a guy karaoke. So that's just the way it rolls.
Yeah.
And the dogs themselves are living across the street from me. And the cure-all was just to keep my gate closed.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that was the fix for that. They're not vicious. They're not mean.
They bark.
They don't. They every now and then they freak out if somebody else is walking their dog.
Okay.
They're very protective.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
Sure.
And so when they have a home, they tend to protect the home, like you were saying. That's what they're supposed to do.
That's what
They're there for safety reasons. And so when they see an intruder, they flip out. It's not a deal breaker for me.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
the thing. That's the thing.
I have a guy that lives up the street from me that I wasn't aware of, that at 6 o'clock at night, he gets a little tuned up on the red horse.
Starts barking?
And I wish. and turns on the karaoke. And for some reason, 10 is the favorite number on the karaoke volume. The loudest it is the best. And, you know, it's just part of the culture. Leaning back on what you were talking about our rights as Americans and whatnot, if, for example, we lived in the proverbial suburban house, and 3 houses down the street, the parents were gone and the teenagers were coming over, and they were revving their cars and they were playing the music, you could pick up the phone and call the police.
Or the homeowners association.
And that would be over with in 10 minutes.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out here, this is a true story. Not the guy that lived there in my house, the one I'm renting now, but the one previous to that. So 2 tenants removed, was a British guy, and he had an issue with this guy that sings at 6 o'clock at night. He sings from 6 to 9, and he had already had a reputation of being a bad foreigner, if you will, you know, with the screaming and the yelling and this and that. And he went up and told the guy to knock it off. And the guy looked straight at him and said, "You're in the Philippines, and this is what we do. We're partying right now. We're having some drinks, we're having some songs, we're having a good time, and if you don't like it, that's just too bad." The guy continued on and continued on, and there's no pretty way of putting this. One day he just got his ass beat. And he's no longer in the Philippines. I don't know if it was the guy up the street. I don't know if it was somebody else that he irritated. Yeah. But there is what's known as jungle justice out here. And if you irritate or cause anyone to lose face out here, you have to be very, very cautious. As to how you are. And you always have to remind yourself, at least I do, that I am visiting here. This is their place. This is not mine. I'm not here to change things. I either adapt or I leave. It's one way or the other.
I've got a good story on that. I'll tell that another time, but about the jungle justice. So the last thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, traffic.
Okay.
That can be, now where we lived before, and I did some videos, the traffic, the way we were on a curve, we were right in our front door of the living room. You could see traffic coming, and then it looked like it was just going to run over us, and then turned suddenly right there. And consequently, the exhaust, the traffic noise, the mufflerless, scooters. So that was not a good thing. So where we live now, we don't have smoke. We don't have traffic because it's kind of in a little
Okay.
jig jog of the traffic, and they do have the dogs that bark, but just doing their job.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And no karaoke.
No karaoke.
No. Now there's a little what they call a capilla. It's a little chapel kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they practice on Wednesday evening,
Uh-huh.
and Sunday, of course, they go in full blast. But it's the music is spiritual music.
Right. Right.
So it's not boom boom boom.
Right. Right.
So it's okay. Yeah,
Cool.
that's fine.
And
Yeah.
the nice thing is I don't know if it's the same scene with you, but with me, I was explaining to Bud earlier when we were sitting there chewing the fat before we came out here, is that whenever the traffic gets noisy or the dogs start barking or the karaoke fires up, it's really just a matter of me going inside my house, closing the front door,
Yeah.
turning on my music or TV.
Yeah.
I don't have a TV, but I turn on the Netflix on my computer and I can't hear a thing. So the only thing it really interferes with is sitting outside. And I consider that an even trade-off. Let the guy have his karaoke, let the dogs bark. There's certain days during the week, like today is Sunday. So where we live, we're on the way up to Casa Royal Falls and Shintung Ridge and the Japanese Shrine, which are tourist place. A lot of young people like to go there. A lot of young people are doing what young people do. They have the motorbikes with the no exhaust, and they go up the hill real fast. They're just being teenagers or young people.
Yeah.
And it's just, you realize that on Sunday, that's the way it's going to be. And so usually Sunday, May and I are gone anyway. That's kind of an easy day to drive. One thing that I would add to this whole conversation as far as what to look for when renting a place is the landlord.
Yes, good point.
The landlord, for the most part, can make you or break you.
Yeah.
And they can, there's someone that you really want to vet and sit down and have a conversation with. If you have an agreement about the rent amount, the day it's due, that's pretty simple stuff.
Deposit.
But what you really need to iron out is who's going to fix what are you responsible for? Am I responsible for the yard or are you? What if the water runs out? This, that, and the other. So far, May and I have lived in 3 different apartments, and we have had great landlords at all 3 places.
Yeah.
They've been very responsive, very receptive, and very helpful. Every now and then they'll say, well, you broke it, you pay for it, and I'm always good with that.
Fair.
Even though I didn't break it, it just wore out.
Yeah.
But I used it, so time for me to pay. We had a problem with our little water heater that was on the wall of our shower, and I was figuring I was going to need to replace it, and I offered to replace it. And my landlord, who is a Filipino woman, sent her brother over, and for 100 pesos, he fixed it. And so
That's
that
like
was
$2,
just awesome. She had actually come to May last month and asked for the rent early because she had something to pay. And so I pay my rent on the 15th. She wanted the rent on the 12th if that was possible. She was very polite about it. And I gave her the rent on the 8th because I had it set aside. So it was like I was telling you, I'm going to give her the 20,000 round numbers on the 15th. It's just sitting there. I don't care if it goes into her hand today. What's the difference does it make?
Yeah.
It's already spent money, right?
Yeah,
It's already been allocated.
Exactly.
That bought a lot of goodwill.
Yeah.
May told me later, she said, wow, you really got that lady out of a jam. I don't know what the jam was, but the landlord, I would look at attitude, aptitude, and are they here? You might rent from an American guy who is in America.
Yeah.
And now, if there's a problem with the plumbing, you may need to email him, and you may not hear back for 2 days. And he may say, okay, I'll pay for it. You pay for it up front, and we'll just take it off the rent. Or he could just say, too bad, you fix it. So I personally prefer to have the landlord available.
Yeah.
In other words, nearby.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of foreign-owned properties out here that's how it goes. We've had friends that have moved into places and they've been just infested with ants.
Yeah.
They tried to get the guy to fix it. The guy pretty much told them to pound sand, and it just was contentious from day one till the time they went to a hotel room one night just to sleep.
That's bad.
You know,
That's
and
bad.
finally they moved out. And but that guy is just a bad landlord.
I've a couple things. One, the ants you said, right? When we first lived, we're in the same compound that we originally lived. I noticed there's these little, I call them nano ants. They're just a tiny, like a pinhead, but
they're microscopic almost.
Yeah. And then we moved out, and then the place that we moved to, it had ticks.
No kidding.
One time I thought I was scratching a mole on my stomach. It came off. I go, oh my God. And I looked, a little, tick like that. Oh my God. And I'm thinking of all these diseases that I'm going to get,
Lyme disease.
Lyme, yeah. And then periodically I'd see these ticks. You know what a tick looks like, right?
Yeah.
Crawled up, of course, Gloria smash blood, Oh, man. And then the dogs would get, I said, man, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
One commenter said, one little bitty tick and you're moving, so he didn't realize that was just one of the things. But anyway, so we moved out of that into the house that we had before this one, and it was overrun with, what do you call it in English? Geckos?
Oh, yeah.
Butiki?
Yeah.
And I was told that, and I believe it, that they eat the mosquitoes, they eat the bugs, you don't want to mess with them. So I told Gloria, she said, I don't like butiki, she calls them. And the butiki are the little ones, and the tuco is the big ones.
Right.
She said, I'm going to kill. I said, no, they're good. But soon, I started noticing all this crap on the walls.
Right.
And, I said, man, that cannot be healthy.
No.
So we kind of had to make a decision, not allow them in the house, or allow them, but also put up with that.
Right.
So, and then when we come back to this, and that was another factor of many that we moved. And then this one, I was reminded, I'm looking down at my desk, here's these little bitty ants again. So I'm wondering, do you have to make a choice now of what kind of critters you want where you live?
Right.
How about you?
Here's what we did is.
I know they have a pest control service.
Yeah.
But
they have termite is all I've ever seen.
Oh.
But the tucos, or the little guys, we've got a few of them. We don't have a lot.
Okay.
At my first place, we had a lot, and they were pooping all over the place, which is dirty, and I didn't like that. The second place, when I lived at Big Rock, I saw one every now and then, so they were not an issue. Here, there's just a moderate amount of them, and most of them are little. But May and I have a new thing that we do. Another thing you don't want in your house is a dead tuco or gecko, because they stink to high heaven when they die. So here's what we do. We have a weekly routine. Usually on Sunday, which is today, but it'll be another day, is we will leave the house for 4 or 5 hours. And I have a can of the Bygone, and I fumigate the house.
Okay.
And we just blast it. And it does kill the little guys. And so we do our own little extermination thing, inside, outside, and May runs away because she can't stand the smell of it. But I fumigate, I almost use an entire can once a week in the house. And then once we get home, she does her routine with the mopping and the sweeping, get the fan, get it blown out. And so we keep the insects under control. But if you leave, you cannot leave food out, bread or anything like that, or the ants will.
The ants are just, man, it's amazing how quickly they can discover. Also, that place that had all the butiki and tuco, when I would be in the bathroom, I could hear up in the ceiling, in the attic, moving around. I thought, I don't, I know there's got to be hundreds of them up there. But that was then, and this is now. So
So I guess the message on this, I'm going to end my video, and then I'm going to start it again, and we'll do a second video where Bud and I talk about something different. But I guess the gist of this is pretty much due diligence when you're looking at a place. Price, of course, is going to be important, but you really, one perusal isn't good enough. There's so many things, like Bud mentioned. There's water pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of times you go in, you need to turn on the shower.
Yeah.
I have a friend that's trying to buy a house, and it's got no water. And he said to the guy that's selling him the house, he said, well, I need to turn on the water. And the guy said, well, trust me, it's there. He goes, well, I trust you, but I'd like to turn it on and make sure it's there. And that sale just didn't go through. So there's all these little nuances that, and like I said, I'm not a big fan of double security deposits or any of that. Yep. 1 month security deposit, 1 month rent is my max. I don't like long-term leases.
Meaning how long?
Well, I would like to sign for 6 months because of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
What if the karaoke guy is just making me nuts?
Yeah.
What if the people across the street, the dogs, are vicious, and I do want to move, and I'm locked in for a year?
Yeah.
Then I'm locked in, right? So that was kind of the deal that May and I made at the place. We said we'll do it month to month, and then they wanted to do a year, and then I split the difference, and I said 6 months. So that, to me, I think is equitable. If the place is okay, we'll stay another 6 months. But we are totally happy with where we're at. You're happy with where you're at.
I'm happy.
Okay? So there's a little public service thing about renting a house or an apartment here in the Philippines. And I'm going to sign off for now on my video, and then I'm going to pick up right here in the same spot, and we're going to probably talk on a different subject.
Yeah.
All right?
It'll be two expats having coffee in the Philippines.
See you next time. Bye.